Hey guys, Palsteron here, and today let's talk about my accuracy in Stacker Juggernaut. This build revolves around the new Foulborn Hand of Thought emotion, which solves one of Accuracy Stacker's biggest problems, which is percentage accuracy, and you scale this in tandem with intelligence. This means a ton of attack speed from Undeniable, talking 1000% attack speed plus, and on top of that you get flat lightning damage scaling from Stormbrider boots. And intelligence intrinsically is also very strong, and it's also one of Accuracy Stacker's biggest problems, so it's a very nice marriage because intelligence also gives you percentage energy shield per int and also percentage evasion. The evasion coming from the evasion energy shield mastery. For this build showcase, I've chosen Lightning Strike of Arcing, but there are a ton of different builds that you can go for and a ton of different skills that do fit in a double claw setup. I actually made a whole video about that. You can check it out down in the description. However, don't get fooled by the claws being relatively cheap for an endgame build. All the stuff around it is still very int stacker-esque, which means a ton of budget required to get the build going, and then also the items get progressively harder and harder to obtain, but it will scale into infinity. Before we start though, a disclaimer, my favorite thing ever. Int stackers are not budget friendly. There are different types of stackers, right? For example, mana stackers are pretty budget friendly nowadays, and then there's like int stackers, strength stackers, which you can play them early on, but they're not going to blow you away. If you don't think you will acquire hundreds and hundreds of divines eventually, then getting into this build early can be an early gravestone, right? That is just how it works. And it needs knowledge how to solve flippers. This patch with instant trade, I have literally on my stream had my trade window open, and I would try and click the trade. I have 4-5 second stream delay, right? And they would still buy items from me while I was talking about them. I would see my Forbidden Flame, Forbidden Flesh go up to from like 30 divines to 200. And then obviously once I was offline, they would load them off at like 80, 70, 60, right? This league is absolutely crazy for people that have a lot of currency. And the only way to solve that is having game knowledge, knowing how to adapt to new pricing. So let's talk about how the build works. So this build marries accuracy stacking and int stacking into one. And the culprit here is Foulborn Hand of Thought emotion. On the very bottom, you get a ton of increased accuracy per 25 intelligence, which basically, this marriage means that you can play an accuracy stacker while still being decently tanky. I explain the most important pieces. So you get 3 accuracy per 1 intelligence. You get plus 4 accuracy per 2 int, which is 2 per 1 from the Shaper Studge gloves, and then you get 1 per 1 from the accuracy mastery. And then you get the percentage from both of the Hand of Thought and motion. Now, the payoff for that is twofold. You get a ton of increased attack speed and flat lightning damage. The attack speed coming from Undeniable right here, and then the flat lightning damage from the implicit from Stormbrider boots. Now, there's a ton of stackers out there that have a lot of damage, a lot of defense, but when it comes to attack and cost speed, those are very, very stingy. So that is one of the biggest payoffs. You don't just get more damage, you actually get absurd speeds, right? Like up to attack speed cap very often, and you're going to be quite fast, and it's going to feel amazing on certain skills. You can get even more increased damage for melee in specific from the Corruption from a Graft. Increased melee damage per 20 int. You make these with one of the new currencies, and it is basically a 50-50 chance when you slam that currency on, whether it poofs or you get an implicit, and I think that was 12, so it's like a 1 in 24 to hit. And after that, we have the usual int stacking package, which is increased damage per 15 int from a Simplex amulet down here. This is global damage, so for example, if you want to put Explodey into the build, that will also get scaled. I didn't find it necessary, but depending on what skill you use, that might be a big deal. You also get 1% increased ES per 5 int, and which is just what int does, and then 1% increased evasion per 5 int over here from the evasion energy shield mastery. My skill of choice is Lightning Strike of Arcing, and if you haven't seen, I actually made a video about this where I go through a ton of different skills, and you can kind of pick and choose. I would say Lightning Strike of Arcing, Reeve, and Viper Strike of the Mamba are my personal favorites. But just to quickly talk about Lightning Strike of Arcing, the differences versus normal Lightning Strike. So first up, this is, if you have never played Lightning Strike before, which I don't really believe, but let's just say, it is a melee hit that you can see right now that also activates projectiles whenever you hit. You don't have to actually hit. It's not like Molten Strike. But yeah, that's all that happens. And the difference between Lightning Strike and Lightning Strike of Arcing is it doesn't start out with any additional projectiles, which means if you want to clear, you need awakened GMP or like normal GMP in order to actually get the projectiles, because it doesn't start out with any like Lightning Strike does, but it does intrinsically start out with 9 chains. And if you know Lightning Strike, you know you have to scale Pierce and whatnot. But even once you scale Pierce, it will feel nowhere near as good as Arcing with the extra chains. And Lightning Strike of Arcing also comes with slightly less base damage than normal lightning strike, so that is another payoff. So you're basically getting better clear, slightly worse single target damage. The reason I chose the skill is mostly because it's one of those convenient skills that gets just like once you have so much damage, all you want is a very good clear skill and a very convenient skill. Also, what you can do on single target, you can actually sub out Awakened GMP, and this one projectile will do, right? This one projectile can still double hit. If you don't know, if you have one single source anywhere of non-Val strike skills target one additional enemy, which you can also get from a attack mastery down here, then you can double hit it with the right positioning, right? So for example, if the enemy is over there and my normal radius will not cover it, then the additional strike will. That additional strike will hit, and then also the projectile from the initial hit. So you're getting, instead of, the projectile does have 50% less damage, right? So you're basically getting 50% more damage if you position correctly. As for Ascendancy choice, there are really two. The only thing you have to know is you need to somehow get your hands on Undeniable. I'm a Jug personally, I think it is worth. Not because Undeniable is so goddamn strong, but also because I love Unstoppable. Cannot be stunned on an ES build is huge. Action speed cannot be modified. Absolutely invaluable, and it also gives you a little bit of extra movement speed. It's just such an efficient and great node. The third one is decent. You generate endurance charges and you get +1 extra. I think this three-way thingy works really well with the bloodline. So what I do here is I go for a Spectre. Now all you have to know about Ferric Will is it sets you to one Spectre only, and then Spectre has to be a beast in order to get this extra buff. The Spectre I'm using is the perfect Guardian Turtle because it has the most HP. It is slow, but it doesn't matter because it gets constantly TP to you whenever you whirl around, and then also from Convocation. It gets a little bit of regen. Now, the owner gains 5% PDR. As far as I know, this is always up, even if it's not in radius. And then the D term is pretty much whatever. But this turtle just has so much more HP than the others, so it rarely dies in almost any content, which is quite cool. And what this extra presence does is it gives us 80% increased accuracy, which is not crazy because we already get so much, but still something. 120% increased crit, which is very nice, and take no extra damage from crits. The reason I took this is because at my current point, and when I go into the Mage Blood version with like 90 max res and whatnot, the only thing that can realistically kill me, unless I'm doing like Baldos, is crits. Now, one other way to go about this would to just say, screw it, I don't need the accuracy, I don't need any of that, I'm just gonna like go Precursors release here from Owl, and you just have no sockets in your gloves, and you are also crit immune, and there is like maybe a 10-15% downtime on the turtle. So you can also do that if you want to go completely secure there. Another way that people go about this is they could go Chieftain, right? If you go Chieftain and you get Tassalio and Valaco, that means that you will have to get a Forbidden Flesh, Forbidden Flame for Undeniable. That's definitely another way to do it, but then your third node will be kind of mediocre, right? But maybe you can find a Bloodline where you can actually take 2 points. What a lot of people are doing as well is the third ring right here. They go Sublime Vision with Purity of Fire, which is I think over a mirror right now, and then they get a third ring slot. However, I don't love that because you lose the access to Mage Blood, which I'm going to be soon, and then you lose a ton of move speed. The thing on this build is if you're whirling around, you will notice sometimes you're like rubber banding or whatnot, and it is quite annoying to not have movement speed if you go around corners and whatnot. So I would personally not recommend doing that, but it is a valid version and it is extremely, extremely strong. On the topic of whirling, a little bit of a trick here, in case you're like rubber banding a lot, right? Which can happen, especially in endgame. Put your cursor a little bit away from your character. What often happens is it whirls a certain distance and then your cursor is here and the server hasn't caught up yet and it still thinks that it's back there. So what happens is if you are within the whirl range, it will go back immediately, right? Kind of like a flame dash of return. But if you have it a little bit further out, this gets a lot more manageable and you will feel the difference. Now, going into gear, the most important thing, which I didn't think I'd have to say, but I will, is you need to have int on all your gear where you can. It matters whether you have 11% int or 12%, right? Like all of these small details do add up and it will mean like you make 10 of those decisions and all of a sudden you're at like half damage. The only thing you have to care here is that it has 12% int and the accuracy mod on the bottom. The implicit is free, quote unquote, because it's a bad implicit. It's life gain per enemy hit. Whatever you can get there for whatever budget you have is going to be great. Crit multi is one of the better ones. Chance to block while dual wielding is also very strong. You can get to from like 20 to 40 block, which is not nothing. Chance to get a frenzy charge on kill is very nice. And then maybe stuff like power charge on crit. I currently only get it from Assassin's Mark, so that would also be decent. As for the rest of the gear, all you need is a Bound by Destiny with 15% increased int if 2 Crusader items are equipped. This will change your gearing. For me, I have a Elder one here. I also wanted to get the extra crit because I bought this one early on. So that's why I have Elder everywhere. There's no other reason to get Elder. Just so you know, you're just wasting your currency. You don't need Elder influence. All you need is 2 Crusader items. The best places to get this is obviously your Amulet, which you already have it for free. But if you don't have this Amulet yet, then the 2 best places to get it is probably on your helical. You're probably not gonna reflect anyways because you need the resistance from the rings, so you'll put on Crusader influence. Once again, you don't need Elder influence whatsoever, and then it gets mirrored with the Kalandra's touch, which counts for 2. Alternatively, if you have a really good reflected helical already, then what you can do is you can get it on Stormrider boots and probably your helmet, which you will have to give up implicits for. But all I need you to tell you is Bound by Destiny is completely broken. 15% int for 1 jewel is wild. And if you have the Amulet already, Amulet counts for 1 and Stormrider boots and you're done. And on Stormrider boots, the influence is kind of free because you can't get any implicits anyways. You can't get any Eldritch implicits because you need the implicit that gives you lightning damage. As for the Amulet, your Anoint will change quite a bit depending on what skill you're using. I'm currently using Sion's Ambition, which gives me quite a bit extra clear with the strikes hitting enemies from 40% further away. On some skills, it will be Tribal Fury. It just depends. This Amulet absolutely sucks to make, so I'm not even going to talk about it. I think Sushi made actually a video about it, so I'm going to link that down below in the description, but it is a crapshoot. I just bought mine. I crafted all my other gear, but this Amulet is just too much for my own taste. Until you get this one, Astramentis is obviously a big downgrade, but I mean, the build still works on it, or Eyes of the Great Wolf if you can snag a good one. For Shaper's Touch implicits, attacks have crit chance, very good. You can't really go Ellie, I mean, you can technically go Ellie Weakness or Enfeeble or anything like that, but we don't have +1 to Curse, and we would really like to just use the Assassin's Mark with Mark on Hit. It also gives us power charges, right? So this is the best corruption, but it is, yeah, not the end of the world if you can't get that. Cyclopean Coil. Now, there's also synthesized belts that you can get with percentage intelligence. This is not really a great Headhunter build, mainly because we already have so much attack speed, so Soul Eater doesn't do that much, and the Fizz extra isn't all that great either. So I would either go for Cyclopean Coil or a synthesized percentage intelligence implicit. The reason I go for Cyclopean Coil is for the rest of the ailment immunities. So we already are Freeze and Chill immune from Jug with the action speed node right here. And then Shock and Ignite is left, unless you have to fight with alt ailments or something. But you get Cannot Be Shocked, which is always up, and then Cannot Be Ignited if Strength is higher than Intelligence. That's something you'll have to track. If you have a Lethal Pride on the right side, it's going to be a lot easier. But I personally choose Light of Meaning later on because the Rage is kind of hard to keep up with Lightning Strike. But yeah, that's about it. As high all attributes and as high int as you can get in the implicit. Otherwise, it will all lead to Mage Blood. And then there's our 2 big rares, which are quite important because they are almost all of our flat energy shield that gets scaled from the intelligence percentage, right? So get as good of a Twilight Regalia as you can get. It can go over 1,300 if you have the investment into. Most importantly, the implicit with 1% less damage taken per 180 int, completely broken. After that, you can go for Aura Effect or Crit Multi. I actually might have to redo this. I have to look into what's better nowadays. Now I have pretty good Crit Multi. Fractured Int is very strong to craft because you can just start spamming Dense Fossils, which is going to be the same thing you're going to do on your helmet. More defense, no life modifiers. In this case, I hit a tier 1, tier 2, tier 1. Pretty good. The enchant gives you more. Now, if you get the has no blue sockets, it's going to be extremely easy to color this body armor. Otherwise, it's going to be a little bit of a problem. You can still do it, but the upside of getting Omens of Blanching is also that you can swap out gems. So I can at any point swap out my Awakened GMP and my Awakened Ancestral Call for 2 damage multipliers if I go up against bosses or anything like that. So yeah, Omens of Blanching, OP, otherwise Harvest. As for the, I think that's all we have to say, right? Yeah. So you want as much int as possible, and then the percentage increased attribute. The res here will become a lot more important later. You can just exalt spam into it and then change it with harvest into whatever you need. As for the helmet, I started with a 60 int fracture, and I got accuracy, which is quite decent. Not as good on this build because you already get so much flat, but still a decent one. And then I just crafted lightning res. You can also craft on all attributes if you have your res already figured out. Fizz damage from hits taken as chaos is straight up 7% less damage taken from Fizz because we're CI. And then reduced mana cost of attacks makes it a lot nicer on the mana, at least on this version. So, yeah, that's pretty good. You can otherwise also go for percentage int on your craft, or you can go for a fractured abyssal socket. Those are all higher investment though. For flasks, I'm currently using a diamond flask, a jade flask, and a quicksilver flask, and then 3 suffixes that you want wherever you can get them. I have increased movement speed suffix, I have crit strike chance suffix, and reduced effect of curses. The percentage evasion on a jade flask, for example, is not really needed because you already have so much percentage. All you really want is plus to evasion. Small tip here. There's a reason I'm not going for Ghost Dance is because there is a Searing Exarch modifier that gives you minus to evasion, and that will literally cancel out all your evasion and put it to 0. And at that point, you cannot recover your energy shield. So just so you know why I'm not going for that. But yeah, that's about it. Otherwise, I'm going for Dying Sun for a little bit of extra clear. And I think this Prismatic Tincture of Overpowering is always a mainstay, whether you have Mage Blood or not. Increased effect, melee weapons penetrate 27. You can also go for the extra effect that gives you more mana burn. I found it to be a little bit uncomfortable. As for jewels and the passive tree, I'm going to put them together a little bit. So the jewels are going to be conversion jewels here and then here. The brute force solution, they both give you a ton of extra int. They are worth it. Then you will have your first cluster here. And as you can see, we're basically just pathing on the outsides. I am actually going to go for the Wicked Ward right here. I really like Wicked Ward. It's like a little bit of a thing that I have, but it's not like necessary or anything. But yeah, you just path outside. The only important thing is grab CI, grab the extra endurance charge right here. Obviously grab the 30 int node. And otherwise, there's not that much happening. If you Lightning Strike, go against the extra crit against shocked enemies with the maximum effect of shock, because you're going to have a lot of damage at some point. If you can't shock even for 50%, obviously leave that one out for now. And then we have this neat little cluster. So here's where I have my Light of Meaning. And I used to have a Lethal Pride here that gives me extra rage on melee hit. And on POB, that looks to be the best option. I actually don't use it anymore because my projectiles now deal so much damage that I don't really hit with the melee part anymore. So it is more padding than anything else. And also on Light of Meaning, if you have enough currency, you can also, or you corrupt them yourselves, you can get corrupted blood cannot be inflicted on you, which I then don't have to have on my rare jewels and make them weaker. It also opens me up to take Ghost Dance, which I will just do, honestly, I will just do for this showcase because otherwise people are going to get confused. But just so you know, on Searing Exarch Altar, you can completely brick your stuff if you don't read altars. So that's about that, but it's probably best to do this. It also opens you up to take Ghost Dance, which is quite nice. Now here we have the super important evasion, energy shield mastery, also Soul Thief, percentage energy shield on kill, pretty nice. The extra power charge. This cluster is super important. Extra accuracy equal to your int, of course. Now, important to know, the claw mastery that gives you, yeah, so they actually changed it. Of Leech is instant per equip claw. So they still haven't changed it. This is life leech only. Just so you know, it's life leech only. It is the same wording as this one right here, but this one works on energy shield and this one does not. It was one of the biggest things I was looking forward to because I thought I would get like 20 instant leech. You don't. It's not correctly presented here. So just so you know, that is the only reason why I go Clever Thief and Leech Mastery. It is worth 3 points. Now, what about the other jewels that I haven't named yet? The first one is Emperor's Wit. It's just a very good jewel that gives you a ton of int and it gives you extra crit. Depending on your other jewels, it could be worse than one of them, but int also gives you AS, so it's not really all that negotiable. Bound by Destiny, we talked about in the itemization section. All you need to have is the 2 Crusader items for the 15% int. Super important are the split personalities right here. Now, they need to be in the last cluster, and you also don't really want to connect this unless it's really your last point and you don't have anything else, because it gives an extra pathing down here for the second split personality. There's a few options for these. I opted for the int accuracy, but there's also int with energy shield, and there's also int with dexterity. Int dexterity is cheaper than int accuracy, but it gives a little bit less damage. But if yeah, whatever. It just depends on what the flippers feel today, right? Like, who knows? Other than that, we just have rare jewels. So I went for these int fractures, 16 int fracture. Now, crimson are the easiest ones to craft, but you don't have to go for crimson if they're going up or something. I saw they were going up, down, flippers again. Now, for these, what you want to do is you want to use deft fossils. These give you crit modifiers. And what you're looking for is the perfect jewel would be this, for example. I couldn't believe my eyes when I hit this. Even perfectly divined, I didn't put a single divine here. You want crit multi with lightning skills, crit multi with LE skills, and then either one-handed melee weapon crit or dual wield crit. You cannot get both one-handed and dual wield. They're in the same bucket, so that's how you get there. Otherwise, normal crit multi is fine. Melee crit multi, I wouldn't recommend for lightning strike because it doesn't work for your projectile part. But if you're something like Reeve, melee crit is great. On Reeve, you can't use the lightning skills and elemental skills, of course. And that's kind of how all of these look. I do have a little bit of mana reservation sprinkled in just to have a little bit more mana open. And I hit this all attributes, and it is like around as good as another crit multi. And if you had anything else that has int, then it's also GG. As for cluster jewels, I will make a video about how to craft these, but there's like two ways. One is with a fracture, so you would have one of these, for example, the 35% increased effect as fracture, and then you would have fundamental fossils, and you spam until you get all attributes in int. All you need to know about these is effect, all attributes, int, GG. The extra maximum energy shield or extra increased damage, which I think I have on the right side right here, those are optional. If you have the all attributes and int and the increased effect, that's great. Otherwise, don't go for 12-point passives. I see people spend all these points for absolute trash, and there's no reason to. Otherwise, you have to find another way to use your points because they're just not worth it. As you can see hovering over here, I'm getting 15 int right now, 5 strength, 5 dexterity, some increased damage. It's just a very, very good node. But if you don't have the budget for that, then that is an issue, and you will have to adjust your pathing accordingly and probably go for more normal clusters for now. Now, the only normal cluster I have is for Stormdrinker, which gives you Lightning Leech. It is quite hard on attack-based builds to get Leech. You could go for Ghost Reaver if you want to, but that turns off your energy shield recovery, and I actually really like outside of combat energy shield recovery. I also really like Wicked Ward, but that is a personal preference. For Showcase, I'll quickly show you a map and then a Uber Exarch. So currently I'm farming this ambush strat on 16.5s. I can run most map modifiers. I actually can't use either Reflect right now because even just the 25 to 65 flat Fizz from here does destroy me. So once I have the Mage Blood set up, I will be immune to Reflect as well. But yeah, all you do is basically you're going to have a very fast whirl. It is going to be hard to control. You'll kind of get used to it. The performance with Val Lightning Strike down is pretty rough. If that is an issue for you, then yeah, you might have to think about what to do. Maybe turn your graphics down a little bit. But yeah, Val Lightning Strike is incredible. You basically just plop it down and it's going to go all over the screen. Now, for example, here I have it up. I'll just show you. It doesn't even need enemies nearby. It just starts spewing. It just goes crazy. And yeah, as you can see right here, the clear is absolutely phenomenal. I think I have everything in. Maybe I have a aura turned off. No, it should be fine. Okay, so I think this is pretty straightforward. But yeah, clearing these kind of maps, clearing tier 17s at this stage is also a complete joke. The boss will be tankier or less tanky depending on what map mods you have. Nothing can really kill you. Mostly getting shotgunned by spells is maybe one issue where, but usually you're like crit immune, so it shouldn't be that much of an issue. You can die to it, especially on lower budgets. Like if your energy shield is only 12, 13k, that means that you're probably in for a bad time. So yeah, this build on lower investment just doesn't really hit as hard as, for example, a Mana Stacker does, but it is what it is. Like I said, it is an aspirational build. Let's try a boss. If you're bossing on this build, know what you're doing. Certain defensive layers are not really in build, but you can probably get them back. One thing I'm going to do is I have Whirling Blades with Fortify right now, and I will replace that Fortify right now with Vigilant Strike. I'll just pop it once so I have to Fortify up. I don't want to whirl on top of bosses. It is like just a waste of time and maybe a little bit dangerous, but you can do that if you want to. I put damage on full life instead of my Awakened Ancestral Call, and I put Awakened LE damage with attacks for my GMP. Now I only have one projectile, but it doesn't really matter on most bosses, right? So let's go in, and there's obviously the immunity phase at the start, but after that we should be good to go. So we go 4, 5, Boom. All right, let's see how it goes. I haven't actually done an Uber Exarch on this, so it's going to be a fun one. As for grafts, I guess I should say I don't really activate them. I only have them for the increased damage per 20 int and the additional strikes. But they don't really scale with your damage, so it's kind of... At some point, they just get completely outscaled. Now, going in, let's see. So at the start, there's obviously the damage reduction. So I'm just going to be pressing my W, which is going to be Vigilance Strike. And after that, I'm going to start doing damage. Let's see if we can kind of phase him early. I will probably not get Val Lightning Strike down. Boom. I think I plopped that maybe a little bit too early. But let's see. Let's do it again. And then we start hitting him. And he gets absolutely destroyed. So as you can see, damage good, scaling very good, and I'm not even at the end. I know saying that is kind of stupid because I'm already at a high investment level, but that is what it is with these builds. They can scale even higher and higher and higher. The reason I also wanted to do this showcase is because a lot of these builds have like a lot of padded damage, which this build really doesn't, right? Like everything here is just kind of up. I didn't tick the Lightning Strike either. So yeah, you can reach these sort of numbers and you can trust the numbers. As for the gem setups, I do have a Raised Spectre setup here. And like I said earlier, you have to buy this turtle right here and then right click it on the ground and then animate it. Now it does cost you every single time. Just know that after this patch, they made it so that specters get resummoned in your next map. A lot of people were freaking out because the Spectre died in the map and then they were in the hideout and they're like, oh, do I have to buy a new one? No. Next instance you go into, it will be resummoned, but not in your hideout. The only thing that will brick your corpse is if you activate it again. So that's why you don't want to have this ever on your bar. After you summon the turtle, never have this anywhere on your bar again, and you cannot really brick it. You can even sub out the gem and everything, it will be there. I went with Elemental Army, Minion Life, and Meat Shield. This is completely overkill if you're not doing high tier content. So like, for example, hard 16.5s or tier 17s, or maybe feared, or certain bosses, right? They stand in certain dots or whatever. But yeah, we're not relying on it too much, so it is what it is. I'm also sacrificing 2 more things though, because I also have an automation with Convocation. Now, you might argue that it's not worth the 6 gem sockets. If you have better things to do with it, sure, go for it. I personally find it very, very nice for the PDR, for the crit immunity, for the extra crit and everything. But it is not like put in stone. And I even thought about just cutting it so I don't have to explain it all the time because it is a little bit annoying to set up. But once it's set up, it's just there after this patch. Our main skill here. So Lightning Strike of Arcane. The supports are very fluid depending on what content you do. What is not fluent is multi-strike or awakened multi-strike. With this amount of attack speed, multi-strike auto-targeting is just so goddamn comfy. So either way, this will never be replaced. Volatility is too good, will never be replaced. Awakened Lightning Pen will really never be replaced. The 2 ones that can be replaced is, first I have Awakened GMP, and that is already enough for clear. The only reason I have Awakened Ancestral Call in here is because I felt I have too much damage for the content I'm running right now. Otherwise, you would just put in damage on full life or probably Awakened LE damage for attacks. Just note that your Whirling Blades can still kill you to reflect. So I would highly recommend to also get Awakened LE damage on attacks on your Whirling Blades if you want to be immune to LE. But like I said, with enough damage, you're still gonna off yourself to just the physical damage from the claw. So what I'm gonna go for later is just reduced reflected damage from the Flaskcraft, right? That's what I'm gonna go for, but that's like a Mage Blood thing. And GMP, you can just sub out on bosses. You're still gonna have that 1 projectile left. So what I did earlier, for example, with the swap, right? Other than that, on the helmet, we have our auras. Flesh and Stone is decent. Arctic Armor is decent. Grace is very strong right now without Mage Blood, with the Enlighten. If you have a +1 Shaper's Touch, you can also put the auras in here. Obviously, that will also free up a little bit of extra mana for your skills. After that, what do we have? We have Immortal Call with Cast of Mistaken. This one's obviously huge because we're Jug. We're always regaining all the charges and whatnot. If you can get in more duration on top, that's even better. I have a Clarity here, and the only reason for that is my Watcher's Eye, which is gonna be somewhere that I forgot. Oh yeah, there it is. My Watcher's Eye is -10 to mana cost. Not really gonna be an issue later, but right now it is just a nice Watcher's Eye that I got. But otherwise, you can play around with this, and you probably just want more duration here, right? That's probably what you're going for. Other than that, we have, yeah, the Spectre sub we already talked about. My Whirling Blades I have with Fortify. You don't need faster attacks of your Whirling Blades, obviously, because you already get so much attack speed. But this one's quite nice, just like whirling through a pack every 6 seconds or so. And for a single target, you just want the Vigilant Strike, and then you have an 8-second Fortify. Now let's talk budget for a bit. My problem right now, especially after this patch, it wasn't never as bad as this patch before, is that if I give you a budget POB, it's actually going to be bad for you because it will mean all those items are going to get bought up and it's not going to be budget anymore, and you're going to be in my comments complaining. So what I'll do instead is give you structural tips, and the rest you'll kind of have to figure out yourself. On PoE Ninja, there's a lot of different versions. I'll just give you a few rundowns here. If you cannot afford clusters, don't really go for bad clusters. Just do your pathing differently. So for example, instead of pathing out here, you can path in the middle. Grab Holy Dominion, grab Divine Fervor. This 10 strength right here also gets converted by the Brute Force solution. That is a lot more efficient if you don't have the money for this extra cluster right here. Versatility is pretty decent here. You can do this. One of the things is you can actually go Ellie Overload. If you don't have enough money for all the crit stuff, especially the crit multi-jewels, there is a way to get Ellie Overload, but then you have to compensate that crit multi for extra attributes. So you'll have to figure that out yourself. As for jewels, I would only go for like 16 int and then 2 combined crit multi. If you can have that everywhere, then you can go crit. After that, so these jewels right here. Otherwise, Wicked Ward, once again, is very selective. Another thing you can do in terms of pathing, so you will definitely want the split personalities always down here. But what you can do is replace one of the clusters or even 2 with this pathing in here. So you want to go down to the jewel anyways, and then you can glide into the shadow area, which has a lot of efficient intelligence. And you have this claw cluster, especially early when you have problems with crit multi, that's going to solve quite a bit. Now, when I'm talking budget here, just to be clear, I'm talking still like 100 plus divines. I'm not talking about fucking getting this to work on 20 divines, okay? You can grab the int here, you can grab the assassination here. Once again, crit multi, which you're going to be lacking, and then go for int plus trickery. You can also go for the dexterity int right here. Just make sure, right now you can see my dexterity is higher than my strength. It's just an example, right? So to 2 these away so that your strength is higher than int, so that you still get the ignite immunity from Cyclopean Coil. Another thing you can do is you can go for normal Lightning Strike over Lightning Strike of Arcing, because Lightning Strike has more damage and slightly weaker clear. But that's going to be a thing that you still want to do, right? Like, because if you don't have enough damage to really go through all the packs, then what good does the extra clear do? So in that case, you would replace GMP with a Pierce support, right? And you might be thinking, oh, you can also just grab the Pierce on the bottom. That is true. You can also do that, but this is straight up just 4 Pierces. But yes, otherwise, if you have points anyways, you can just grab this right here. Now, if you go normal Lightning Strike, there's one of 2 things you want to do. You want to get +1 projectiles. The first way you could achieve that is with multi-shot, which is not that great, but you can go multi-shot +1 additional nearby target. Then you don't have to get it on the grafts, for example. But there's also a cluster. This notable is called Fan of Blades, and it gives you an additional projectile. The reason it is so important on normal Lightning Strike is that if you have 4 projectiles, it will like fan out really badly, right? So you have these projectiles and you're actually aiming like here. You have this V shape, right? And that is not very good. With 6 projectiles, it's very manageable. On 4, it's a little bit weird. So the 1 additional projectile from that jewel could also make a big difference. If this section right now did nothing to you and you didn't get any aha moments, most likely you don't have the game knowledge to kind of put this into a more budget version and kind of look through PoE Ninja and get solutions for yourself. So at that point, I would just recommend coming back to this build later once you maybe have a little bit more budget. As for Twink Leveling, there's really 2 things you can do. The first one is deck stacking, as always, with a 1 whiff nothing, which will just give you a ton of extra flat damage. You're going to be unarmed, you're going to go smite, and you're just going to boom stuff, or Volcanic Fissure, snaking, whatever you want. The second one is Impending Doom, like Pak did it, which is incredible. I mean, just look at this leveling damage. It is completely outrageous. If you don't know, there's a new helmet this patch, Foulborn Dodris Scorn, and this one gives you level 30 Impending Doom. So the reason I didn't level with this is because it starts only at level 39. I just wanted to start at 1 and just go all the way. But that is up to you. And the other reason was because it's a little bit awkward on the left side of the passive tree. Otherwise, definitely watch that video. I'll also link it down below in the description. But yeah, that's about all I got for this video. Pobs are down below in the description. Obviously, they're also in my doc. And yeah, I mean, this build has been ridiculous. It's going to be very hard to come up with another build where it doesn't feel like a downgrade. We'll be putting out another video on the Mage Blood version, most likely. It's going to be 90 max res with Valakos. And yeah, we're going to talk about that. Also, there's some other really cool PoE Ninja builds that I want to go over. EO versions, 3-ring versions. Either way, though, even if you can't afford the video, I hope you maybe learned a thing or two. And with these kind of builds, it's often like, oh, it's currently in the eye of everybody. And then once the hype kind of falls off, maybe some of the items are a little bit more affordable. But with that being said, since I still don't have a slogan, see you next time.